AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host, Mark Kelly, brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
Welcome to the AI in Action podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kelly, Chief Customer Officer at Alldus International. Our guest today is Dr. Marion Schwarzler. Marion is Head of Decision Science and Advanced Analytics for Medical Affairs, Pharmacovigilance and Regulatory Affairs at Bayer AG within the IT department. Dr. Marion, very welcome to the show today.
Hello, and welcome also to you. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Would you mind giving us a little bit of an introduction about yourself and also a background about you?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm coming from Austria and came to Germany in order really to make my dream come true, to really combine data science and health, because that was really what I was aiming for a very long time already. So back then when I was in Austria, so obviously my family is in Austria and I grew up with a family. Three of them are really working in the IT area. So that was already right from the very beginning. I had a very natural touch to it, so to say. And the other part is also I'm the youngest of three kids. I have two older brothers. And that is really also, I guess, the reason why I'm not now working in a domain that is typically led by men as well, still, right? So the reason why I was always very interested in this topic was I was always a big fan of mathematics and working with numbers at the one hand. But on the other hand, I was always interested in medicine, and I figured out, like, when I started to study, and I probably cannot do both of these two cool things, but I would rather focus on one. And that was a natural kind of decision that I made going into econometrics back then, because it was closer to what the people around me, and that is often what happens, right, were doing. And I didn't have so many physicians. I actually had no physician in my family or so on. So that was why I made this for me back then easy choice. But I wouldn't say I regret it, but I always said, like, okay, when I'm very old and when I go into retirement, maybe I will study medicine back then. And so finally, I found a solution for that, which was not so obvious a lot of years ago, right? So someone told me once, yeah, okay, you could really combine the two things that you love, like doing data science, or it wasn't really called like that, but statistics, and medical topics or health topics. Which really gave me a relief back then, and I decided to go into that direction. So you might ask, why do I come from econometrics? This is not a typical profile for a data scientist, and that is true. For some, it is not, but actually, I was always happy that I went into that direction, because the reason why economics and econometrics was so great for me was really that. You always have an outcome. It is not only about the numbers, but you actually want to achieve a goal. You want to achieve something and want to give a recommendation about something. May it be politics, may it be the economy in general, and so on. So this is why I really like that. So, but then obviously, like what I mentioned, I decided to combine the two areas. So what I did is that I moved away from Austria. Because there was no opportunity for me to go into more depth in that area. So I moved to Germany and started a very interesting combination. I was working at a research institute, which has a strong focus on health as well. And at the same time, I did my PhD in this field as well. So it was both working and doing my PhD at the same time, which was probably the hardest time I ever had in my whole life. But it definitely paid off because I had what I wanted. I had a few years, it was 5 years or something like that, of in-depth research. So I was modeling a lot. I was getting a lot into programming and so on. But at the same time, I had really also this application. I was talking to customers. I really had also to sell the projects and to sell the results. So that was an amazing combination. But after those 5 years, I realized, okay, but now I'm a very deep expert in one field, and I'm not sure how much more often I will need this specific technique that I was focusing on during that time. So I said, okay, I really want to broaden my analytics capabilities. And that was when I decided to join consulting, but not the typical consulting. It was Deloitte Analytics Institute in Berlin, which is a hub specifically for the combination of a lot of people, what you have there. So it was more than 100 people working around data science, data engineering, data strategy, but also UI, UX design, and so on, legal engineering even. So that was a very inspiring situation and environment over there, which I enjoyed a lot. Right, and that is, I guess, it formed me quite a lot because I got in touch with a lot of different projects, mostly in the health area, but also some other. And I really had my typical work day was like that. We were sitting together in our hub in Berlin, next to each other, discussing the data science challenges that we're facing, and working together with also the other skills that we had there. So this was an amazing opportunity for me. And that was actually when I decided to, at some point of time, it was nice to switch the roles from being the external consultant, but becoming really an internal. And when I started to work for Bayer after this adventure I had at Deloitte.
Yeah, thank you very much for that overview. Very, very comprehensive overview. So healthcare is a really, really interesting one. And the world that we're living in now, I think everybody is positively or negatively impacted in some way with what's happening in the community. And it's such an important time to have. Tell us about the challenges and positive benefits of working within data science within healthcare.
So the healthcare topic is very interesting, especially as you said, like, and also comparing it to other industries. What makes it so special? I guess, and that is what I observed, especially in consulting, when I've seen a lot of different industries and we providing data science for them. Right, you see the automotive industry, they apply data science for a very long time already, but now like everyone's very careful of getting in touch with health data and working around that field. But actually it is a great opportunity because you realize, okay, the automotive sector or the finance sector, they've already tried a lot of things. They already brought data science to a stage where we already know quite well what is possible and what is not possible, at least for the basic use cases. And that is, but they tried all that when healthcare was not really a topic for data science. So data science and health can now really speed up. They can take a look at all the other industries and can learn from their mistakes already. But why is it so different? Of course, I mean, you have health data. This is so much more big trouble if something does not happen there, right? If something does not work over there, you're really getting into trouble. You don't wanna play with a patient, right? You don't want to play with some kind of data that has this kinds of sensitive information in that. You really don't want to make a mistake, but at the same time, you want to be very innovative, right? And that is a very tricky field, where data science is located. But at the same time, it is also so good because the other industries learned already so much in this field.
So tell us about some of the challenges that healthcare data possess, because it's not necessarily straightforward. And there is a little bit of corporate governance and GDPR and you're dealing with people's data, so there are some extra things to be mindful for.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So when you really I guess what everyone thinks about is patient data, right? So this is very straightforward when you think about data science in health, which is true to some certain extent, but there are a lot of other data sources as well. But we start with the patient data. So what happens over there? You have a few available data sources, which you can buy, mostly from the US. But the real challenge is that you cannot really access data from other people. Like you really want to have a representative data set that captures not only one continent, for example, or data that you have bought for a specific purpose. So the challenge over here is really the access to data. And that will probably still be with us for the next few years, because there are a lot of regulations coming in which are there to protect the patient, which is a very good thing. But I guess by that, we also come into a discussion like what we see when it comes to all the COVID apps, that people are very cautious when it comes to their health, but compared to what they share on WhatsApp or similar like that, it is interesting to see the mindset of people. But still, of course, we have to protect the data of patients, and that is why it is not so much accessible. But there are other things coming in as well, because you think like, okay, but you could make, like your buyer, you could make an app and collect and get the consents of patients, and just work with this kind of data because they allow you to do so. But there comes the next challenge, right? So for example, if you say like, let's make a diary, people are able to write into that diary how they feel today, and what they did, or everything that gives you kind of a better insights into what is going on in the patient's head. You already have a trouble there, because you wanna and you have to be very careful with this kind of data. You cannot just collect it. You have to see what is happening. So imagine we have such kind of data, and someone reports an adverse event, for example. You would have to be very careful that you really capture that information, because you have to take care of it. So if you have a very new algorithm that maybe is not yet at the stage, or does mistakes, you're really getting into compliance issues as well. So this is the kind of challenge that you have, for example, with data science specifically. Some other part is interoperability of data, right? So there are different types, of course, of interoperability. So there might be the structural interoperability, when it's more about the legal standards and all of that. But there's also the semantic interoperability when it comes to understanding, like when you share a data set from a patient, from one doctor to another doctor, how are you really able to make sure that both, and also in an automatic way, can analyze this kind of data? So you would have to look for semantic interoperability, and thereby you normally have to use natural language processing, which comes back again, I guess, to the great opportunities again of data science and health.
So it really leads nicely into that. So when you think about different doctors around Europe and different ways of doing things, that doesn't necessarily make for a really clean, tidy data set for people to work on. And with so many new innovative things happening with NLP in 2020, where do you see this going, and how are some of the applications of NLP helping the user?
So NLP is really, I guess, one of the most fascinating fields in data science and health, at least from my perspective. And I'm allowed to say that because being the head of this group, we actually have a strong focus on natural language processing, which comes to one part from the skills that are in my team, but also from the use cases that we see. Because as you said, like data science, health is such an amazing field we're doing as doctors. When you really think you as a doctor and you as a patient, if you look at all the stuff you have at home as a patient, or all the things that you're doing, or doctors are also complaining about, it is documentation, right? So what we really do have, even though healthcare started much later into data science compared to the other industries, but what we do have is amazing data in terms of we have a lot of documentation that has not been used yet. So this is definitely something that one has to take a closer look at when you think already about the patient and doctor interactions. How often do we say, like, I don't really understand what the doctor is telling me? It is text, it is communication, right? Communication is, and it will stick to us, and it will stick to us in when it comes to health, because it is always about the patient, and each patient is very individual. So you will never replace healthcare by something else. You will never be able to completely replace people in healthcare by robots or something else, because the patient matters. You will always communicate with the patient. Each patient is so individual, and a lot of impacts come into the well-being of a patient. And that really means that as long as communication, and it will stick to healthcare, NLP is also like the one thing that really can bring a lot of insights into how we are treating patients and how people are doing, and how also the communication can be further enhanced, right? So what we've seen, like, I mean, this is in 2018, 2019 was the great rise, so to say, of natural language processing, but it seems like it even continues into that direction. And what we see nowadays, and this is awesome, is that we already have, and this started, I guess, last year or maybe 2 years ago also, but it really comes into the broad fashion now, is that we see pre-trained models specifically for healthcare, pre-trained NLP models for healthcare. And that is amazing, because you can, out of the box, you can do a natural named entity recognition for medical documents, for example. You have pre-trained bird models and so on that really go into depth when it comes to medical documentation, which is really awesome.
Dr. Marion, so I was slightly away from the tech side of it. How important is it for diversity within the data science team to generate value for the different stakeholders that you're engaging with?
It is extremely important. And that is also why I sometimes have to, let's say, not love, but to grin a bit about the question. So like what is the perfect skill set of a data scientist? So what I see, for example, in my team, I have people that want to go more into the expert direction. For example, they want to every time they want to stick to the technical parts. They want to really be very very near also to the coding, even if they really becoming senior people in my group. So they don't want to get reduce this kind of contact to the data and to the actual data science and coding. On the other hand, you have people that are more interested in the part, for example, and which is again a different kind of skill set, at least a little bit into the direction of ML ops. Then you have people that are extremely interested in setting up new use cases and working together with the stakeholders to act as a kind of a translator. So the translator between the business needs and the data science part. So to make the business people feel like, okay, they're not really talking data science to us. It feels like we can have a clear communication, and I don't feel overwhelmed by all these data science phrases, so to say. And then you could have people that are much more interested in setting up academia relations and good connections with the outside, and to say, okay, where is all the other great knowledge that we should be aware of and we should include in our research. So this is the kind of diversity I already see within my team, which I find fascinating, because I already see like, okay, when we have a certain challenge coming up, I know that this is really a specific profile I'm looking at that very moment, but it might change from time to time. And that is why I'm not only looking for, whenever I'm looking for people, I'm not always looking like for that typical hands-on coding the whole day person, but the more diverse it is, the better, because you always have to have a good communication between all of these kinds of skills, because we really want to we have to ideate, we have to work on POCs, we want to bring all of that into industrialization, and we want to make sure that we're using the right approaches, right? So for that, diversity is very important.
My final question, tell me where you see the future going of healthcare and data science.
Yes, thanks for that question. So first of all, I see it that we're going much more into the direction of a patient. So nowadays we're working on a lot of internal data sets, and we only have really the access to other data sets like real patients only from specific data sets like from the US that we can buy. The other part, which is not directly related to data, is really, and that is something we see obviously in general in data science, moving into industrialization. So what do I mean by that? So we are very good, and I was very impressed when I came to Bayer, when I've seen that so many ideas are out there and so many POCs were running, and actually really successful POCs. But what we really have to learn, and that is, I mean, I have, as I said, seen that in other industries as well. We have to become, every one of us, and also this is goes a lot into the direction of skills again. We have to become better into actually putting data science in production. So this is something where I guess this whole data science community still has to work a lot on to really bring it into real life applications, and to make sure that you have also the kind of MLOps and all the things that you really need to maintain a data science product in the end, that you have everything you need for that.
You've been listening to the AI in Action podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kelly, Chief Customer Officer at Alldus, and our guest today has been Dr. Marion Schwarzler, Head of Decision Science and Advanced Analytics for Medical Affairs, Pharmacovigilance and Regulatory Affairs within Bayer AG, within the IT department. Dr. Marion, thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks a lot.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. For more information, contact mark@alldus.com. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.